friends, YouTube, we're not going to be here for more than another day. But so if you're watching live on YouTube, well, I know I'm so confusing about this. If you're watching live,
yeah,
that won't happen for more than another day. If you're watching on demand later, you're fine. Everything's great.
It might just show up a little later than normal.
Might show up a little later because it's not automatically happening, and it'll just be DTNS. But twitch.tv/gooddayinternet if you want to continue to watch live or get the whole pre and post show.
Nice.
Ms. Sarah Lane.
I knew it. I've been waiting patiently all week, in fact.
If I may, there's different phrasing than usual, so make sure I don't trip you up with that. Because this is like breaking news kind of stuff. And, it is the last day. It'll be line 6. I think it goes back to being line 3 tomorrow. So,
R.I.P. line 6.
Yeah. So mark that down if you're keeping score at home.
People were very confused the first day. I was like, line 6, and they're like, line 6. I had no idea they even noticed until the chat room exploded with confusion.
Yeah, I think at one point I was like I scrolled to line 3 and I'm like, there's nothing there. Who's going to ask me about line 3? All right.
Here we go. In 3, 2.
Brad Bishop just began supporting independent tech news directly, getting us closer to one more patron than last month. Want to help Brad help us do it? Well, become a DTNS member today at patreon.com/DTNS.
This is the Daily Tech News for Thursday, June 6, 2019 in Los Angeles. I'm Tom Merritt.
And from Studio Feline, I'm Sarah Lane.
From Oakland, California, I'm Justin Robert Young.
And from a sweltering LA County edge city, I'm Roger Chang, the show's producer.
We missed you this past fortnight, Justin Robert Young.
It's good
to have you back.
I'm very glad to be back after a little sojourn to the sun-dappled shores of Italia. I'm good to be back. I'm very
Buongiorno, or however they say welcome back.
Buongiorno.
And we're going to talk about Google Stadia. We got the details. We know how much it's going to pull out of your pocketbook, and it's probably more than you thought, but there's some reasons. We'll decide whether we think they're good enough reasons or not. But let's start with a few tech things you should know.
As somebody in the Black Lodge once said, I've got good news. The FCC voted unanimously Thursday to let carriers block robocalls by default. The FCC also voted to move forward on a proposed rule requiring carriers to adopt the shake and stir caller ID authentication system if they don't voluntarily adopt it themselves by the end of this year. The rule doesn't require carriers to turn on robocall blocking by default. It's something that they can decide to do, opt in. Also doesn't require those services to be free to consumers.
Google announced updates to SOS alerts, providing more detailed visual information about areas affected by natural disasters like hurricanes, floods, and earthquakes. Google Maps will show this information. Earthquake visualizations will appear on desktop, Android, and iOS versions of the app, with navigation warnings available on the smartphone apps. Flood visualizations are coming to Android desktop and mobile version of Maps, with hurricane visual forecasts available on all platforms.
Huawei signed agreements with MTS Telecom to develop 5G networks in Russia over the next year. MTS said it expects the pilot launch of 5G networks in Russia to start later this year. And China granted 5G licenses to state-owned telecoms China Mobile, China Unicom, and China Telecom, as well as state-owned broadcaster China Broadcast Network. The telecoms have planned commercial deployment of 5G service in China for 2020. If you're keeping track, telecoms in the UK, US, and South Korea have already launched their 5G services, although in limited areas. All right, let's talk a little more about an algorithm that's a boon for video editors and possibly a problem for society.
Yes, George Lucas's beautiful dream is now a reality. An algorithm developed by scientists at Stanford University, the Max Planck Institute for Informatics, Princeton University, and Adobe let a user alter text in a transcript in order to change what a person in an accompanying video says. The algorithm learns the speaker's characteristics from the original video and creates a model of the speaker's head to attempt to replicate movements in speech, Right now, the algorithm needs at least 40 minutes of video for training. For an example, Tom, let's go ahead and take a look at what it does.
All right. So if you're on the audio, the listening will be just as good. But if you're on the video, you should be able to at least get a sense of what goes on. This is a person saying, I love the smell of napalm in the morning. Then they just edit it. They edit the word napalm in the transcript to make him to take phonemes that they've learned from this same person's other videos and have him say something else using this algorithm. Here we go.
I love the smell of napalm in the morning. I love the smell of French toast in the morning.
So there you go. He loves the smell of French toast, not napalm. Although I guess you could make French toast with napalm. The idea here was what's funniest about this idea to me is I went to my wife, who's a video producer, and told her about this, and she's like, "Oh, that would be so helpful. Like if somebody says a name wrong, or you get the release date of a movie wrong, you don't have to go reshoot it. You just go change it in the transcript. Boom, you're done."
Yeah, I was actually editing an audio podcast recently, and the host just said the name of a company, not super wrong, but wrong enough where she was like, "We have to do it over." And I'm like, "It's too much work. We're just going to cut out that sentence." You know, it's just we were in one of those situations. So totally feel you, Tom's wife, on that. At the same time, and we've seen this more and more. We've been hearing all about this. Oh, we're gonna start. We'll never know what's a fake video and what's a real video because of AI and machine learning. But we are already seeing doctored up videos confuse people. So something that is very, very realistic, more and more so, is going to continue to be problematic.
Well, let me offer a counterpoint, because as good as these technologies have gotten, I can't help but think that this is just another version of Photoshop. And I'm sure Photoshop to a certain audience at a certain point felt like, oh my God, we'll never be able to trust an image again now that they're able to edit it in this computer program. And sure, there are doctored images that might fool people, but in general, we've caught many things because now we know what Photoshopping looks like. I suspect
there are telltale signs of
I suspect that this will go forward. As much as we've had a lot of conversation about doctored video over the past few weeks, I don't think that there's any confusion that it is doctored. The question is how people are reacting to a edited.
Well, and there have been conversations about how you could embed some sort of a data point within a doctored video, because a company who's creating this technology is not going to be like, hey, we want politicians to say these bad things, right? Like that's not what the front facing reason for doing this would be. So if there would be some sort of way that you could kind of look inside and be like, no, this is a doctored video. Okay, we're all in agreement on that. Then it would make people feel better, but that's complicated as well.
Yeah, but there always are traces of that sort of thing. And that the developers of this algorithm said that. They're like, there will be ways to tell whether this has been done to a video or not if you really want to get forensic about it. And like you said, we deal with that with Photoshop. Back on May 15th, we mentioned Microsoft had issued a patch for the BlueKeep vulnerability in remote desktop services for otherwise out of support versions of Windows, like Windows XP and Windows Server 2003. We talked about how significant that was. The only unaffected versions of Windows were Windows 8 and Windows 10. Well, Microsoft has continued to warn that this needs to be patched. They sent out the warning again last Friday. And Tuesday, researcher Sean Dillon posted a video showing his working exploit. He hasn't given details because he doesn't want people to do it. But the workable exploit is estimated to potentially be as bad as WannaCry or NotPetya, which allowed vulnerable computers to potentially break into any machine on the same network. So if you have one unpatched machine, you can get into everything, whether they're patched or not. NotPetya is considered by many to be the most expensive malware attack in history. And it's difficult in some situations where you're running critical infrastructure like a hospital to get this stuff patched.
Yeah, that was my first question when I heard the story is, in what situation is it hard to patch a computer? But yes, hospital, great example. You're not just talking about one computer, you're talking about many computers, and those computers cannot have downtime.
Yeah, and that's what's important about this is that it will not be easy for companies to patch this, even if they want to in situations. So it's not as easy as like, come on, lazy people, just get in there and patch. But it's also really important to patch because this could be really bad and shut down an entire hospital or something like it.
Uber Copter will begin helicopter service in New York City July 9th. These are 8-minute rides from a pad in Lower Manhattan, New York, by the Staten Island Ferry to JFK Airport. The service is only available to Platinum and Diamond Uber Rewards members, so people who are paying a premium already, Monday through Friday afternoon. So it's somewhat limited for now. But each helicopter can seat 5 passengers and be booked up to 5 days in advance or right when you need it. Price will vary by demand, but Uber estimates an average ride will cost between $200 and $225 per person. 2 pilots will be on each flight for now.
Yeah. Aren't we all glad finally that we could take advantage of this for
yeah, I know.
only $225
well,
per
because
person?
First of all, I'm on Wall Street a lot.
Sure.
And I've got money to
Often
burn.
as we are. Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
and I'm usually going to JFK on a Thursday afternoon, so this works well for me. This doesn't actually work well for me, but I love the idea of it. I would love to take a ride in an Uber Copter.
Look, as much we can Nelson laugh at the rich all we want, and we should because that's what we the poors get. But I would be hesitant to say that anybody who has tried to get to JFK from almost anywhere in Manhattan, let alone from where I used to live in Hoboken, was among the largest pains in the butt that you will ever experience, specifically with luggage. So I get it. The real question I have here is like, how different is this than if you were to just like something like this had to exist before? Like Wall Street folks had to be getting helicoptered to JFK before this. I wonder what kind of benefit or disruption this really is. Like, is this bargain basement for a similar product?
Well, I think it's kind of like Uber Pool, but helicopter version, right? In the past, I'm not sure how many people were like, all right, I've got a helicopter. Who wants in? If you're rich enough to have a helicopter option, then you're going to be paying more than $200 to get from downtown Manhattan to JFK.
Sure.
My guess is, Justin, you're right. There are services that do this for, my guess is, more money, and they have downtime. And Uber wants to take advantage of that downtime, which is what their software is really good at. I think the most interesting thing about this to me is that you have to be a heavy user of Uber. So this just isn't about having money. If you have money and that's all, then you probably buy another service, like you say. This is about a perk for people like you use Uber all the time. You're our diamond member. So
your company pays for you to be one.
Yeah. Well, I'm just saying you use it all the time.
Yeah.
You're our platinum member. You're a diamond member. And so we're going to let you in to get this 8-minute trip. They say, all told, it'll probably take you 30 minutes because you have to get to the platform at Staten Island Ferry. And then you have to get from the helicopter
not gonna be right at your gate.
Your terminal. But 30 minutes is still much faster than the 1 hour or maybe 2 hours it might take you to get to JFK.
Even the LIE, which I'm a big fan of, is going to take a lot longer than this. But again, $200 in a pinch, I'd probably pay it. Hopefully I manage my time better than that, but
I will say, in terms of their pricing, it is like just north of where I would be like, you want to know what? Screw it. Like I'm not riding the subway all the way there. I'm not getting a cab, which is not $200, but those can get pretty pricey.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure.
Google says it will acquire data analytics company Looker, the first major acquisition since former Oracle exec Thomas Kurian took over as CEO of Google Cloud in November. It's Google's 4th biggest acquisition ever, behind DoubleClick, Motorola, and Nest. Looker analyzes data across multiple cloud services from multiple companies like Salesforce, AWS, Oracle, and Microsoft Azure. Similar competing services to Looker include Microsoft Power BI and AWS QuickSight. Google needs to offer services like this to gain market share in cloud business. Kurian has previously said he wants to hire more salespeople and target retail and finance industries.
Yeah, the big deal here is that Google needs a hedge. We're not saying its ad sales business is in trouble right now, but right now it is overly dependent on its ad sales business. And cloud is the most likely section of Alphabet's whole company to make up the gap. So bringing in Kurian and him saying, you know what, we're going to go after this. This is the first step of going after it, is to buy a company like this that is cross-platform, and Google can say, yeah, we've got a hybrid cloud offering already. Doesn't matter what you're using. We've got a product for you. It puts them in one more place where they can be competitive with Microsoft and Amazon in this space.
They absolutely need to. And I think that when we look back at the story of Google, the fact that they were not on cloud stuff earlier is going to be a real missed opportunity, because they were a company that was famous for how much cloud storage they had. They kind of, for philosophical reasons, went away from it that we're going to get into with the Stadia a little bit later.
Yeah, Amazon did it in a less expected manner, right? They're like, hey, we have to do all this cloud stuff for our retail operation. Why not turn that into a business? Google should have easily done the same thing, but like you say, philosophical reasons. Microsoft President Brad Smith wrote an open letter to the U.S. Congress last year asking for proper regulation of facial recognition. You may remember us talking about that. Microsoft has even blocked sales of its facial recognition technology to California law enforcement. So they present themselves in their speech as well as their actions as a company that's trying to be very responsible about facial recognition. Well, now Microsoft has deleted a public database meant for training algorithms, the MS Celeb database. It contained more than 10 million images from 100,000 people. Now, Microsoft published it in 2016. It was at the time the largest publicly available facial recognition data set in the world. It was meant for anyone who was working on facial recognition technology to have a safe database that they could use for training. These were public figures, and all the images were Creative Commons licensed. So Microsoft felt like, okay, this is probably okay. However, Berlin researcher Adam Harvey told the Financial Times that he found some images in the database that were arguably private individuals. They may have been journalists, but not that well publicly known, etc. And Microsoft has now deleted this database after an investigatory report from Financial Times came out. The report was on facial recognition in general, but included a lot of references to Microsoft's activity. So the question is Microsoft just doing it because it's the right thing, or is Microsoft doing this because they got some bad press from Financial Times, or is it both? Probably both.
I'm going to guess both.
The Creative Commons license part of it is, you kind of have to say, well, I mean, Microsoft was doing everything above board, it seems. If somebody is arguably a private citizen and not a public figure, and that person was arguing that for themselves, I could see that. I think a lot of this is pretty subjective, though.
Right. In other words, someone saying like, I don't know if this person would like that their image is in this database. That's not a big deal if you're someone whose photograph is everywhere. You're like, you know what, everybody knows I'm Jennifer Lawrence. Everybody knows what I look like, right? But if it's somebody who isn't like that, maybe they get icky about facial recognition, but it wasn't them that caused this. On the other hand, I think you're right, Justin. I think it's both, because Microsoft took the step of saying, you know what, we're trying to be good citizens on this. And if there's even a hint of a question, then we'll get rid of it.
Yeah. What a crazy world Microsoft is in right now, considering like all these other companies are being rung up for antitrust, or
they've done that rodeo.
It's like, like the Marlboro Man, they kick on back.
Yeah, they watch the sheriff hauling somebody into the caboose going, yeah, we've been there.
Yeah.
Folks, if you want to get all the tech headlines each day in about 5 minutes, be sure to subscribe to dailytechheadlines.com. All right, we got the details on Google Stadia. It's going to launch in November in 14 countries. And as a Founders Edition member, you can start your pre-order right now. You pay a one-time fee of $129.99 or close to that in your local currency. And you get a Stadia controller in limited edition Night Blue, a Chromecast Ultra, 3 months of Google Stadia service for free at no extra cost, and a 3-month buddy pass for one of your friends. You also get first crack at your Stadia name if you're in on the ground floor. You know what? He's going to take your gamer tag, or Stadia name, as it's called here. After the 3 months, the service will cost $9.99 a month. Streams for Founders will be at 4K 60 frames per second with HDR and 5.1 surround sound. The service will launch with at least 31 titles. They mentioned 31 titles today, but they say there are more to come at E3 next week. Those titles have to be purchased separately. So you got to pay your $130, eventually your $10 a month, and buy your stuff. Prices will be set by the publishers. However, a Stadia Pro subscriber will get discounts on games and occasional free games starting at launch with free Destiny 2. Devices supported at launch in November will be the Chromecast Ultra, the Chrome browser, and the Pixel 3 and 3a, though they say they will expand that support to multiple devices as they go along. And sometime next year will be the kind of real launch. Sometime in 2020, subscribers will be allowed to sign up for Stadia Pro without purchasing the Founders Edition package. There will also be a free tier called Stadia coming next year. Stadia Base will launch at 1080p, 60 frames per second, stereo audio. Google says you probably need about 10 megabits per second if you want to get 720, 60 frames per second. 35 megabits per second if you want that full experience at the pro level with your 4K 60 frame per second. And this works on Wi-Fi and Ethernet, but not on cellular. Even if you're on that Pixel, you want to be connected to Wi-Fi to make this work. So keep in mind that if you want to buy one of these controllers on its own, it's $70. And if you want to buy a Chromecast Ultra, it's around $70. So $130, you're getting hardware worth
the Founders Edition is good value.
Yeah, what you're paying for, unless you're like, I already have a Chromecast Ultra, right? But a lot of people still won't want to put that money down right away.
The subscription model is also curious, and I've seen this echoed around the gaming corners of the internet of people that I follow who care a little bit about titles more than I do, which actually means a lot. But the idea of, well, we're also used to this sort of monthly subscription and renting, and that's the way that that's the way that we use media, whether it's audio or video or gaming or otherwise. And the idea that you own all of these titles, do people really want that? And is this price reflective of that? I've also seen people say $10 a month. That's great. I mean, you're undercutting your competitors for sure. And that makes Stadia really impressive right out of the gate.
Well, $10 a month to just get on the service, right? And then paying for whatever the games are.
If you compare it to like PlayStation Now, stuff like that, it's it's not that far off.
No.
And there will be a free version eventually if you're like, oh, I don't want the 4K. I mean, this is a console replacement package, right? Yes, you can just use your Xbox controller and a Chrome browser and do this without having to get the Founders Edition, and that's what that free tier is for. Or the person who's willing to pay $10 a month but doesn't want the 130. This 130 is, we needed to limit the number of people who flood into this thing right at the beginning, but we wanted to make it worth their while.
Yeah. And this kind of gets to what we were talking about a little bit earlier. Google has had a philosophical love and prediction that has informed a lot of their decisions, some of which I think have now been proven to be at least over aggressive, if not faulty, in the idea that ubiquitous internet creates value. That if you can always connect to the internet, then there are things that we will be fundamentally rethinking as we go forward. And specifically for Google, when it comes to the cloud stuff, look, Google could have totally taken out the need for a company like Dropbox or Box or something like that. They had famously more storage than they could ever think to do it. It's the reason why they were able to push products like Gmail, where kids buckle up. But back in the day, the idea that you would never delete an email was something very exciting for us olds. But there's now they are moving this to gaming, and I think it's a very clever hardware to have the controller connect directly to Google servers. Hopefully,
because it connects by Wi-Fi. If people don't realize that, it doesn't connect by Bluetooth.
So it hopefully solves some of the soupy streaming kind of reviews that we've seen so far. But internet's unreliable for a lot of people. And to me, it has always been a very interesting decision that Google has made in places where, the Bay Area and Silicon Valley in general, like there are, very, very good internet connections. That's not the case everywhere. And I wonder whether or not, having your product, a paid service, be as dependent as internet connectivity is, whether or not that is, if they're right now.
And especially when they're pushing the idea of, will you own this game now?
Well-
right? Because it's like, it's not in your hand. Like if
And
So-
you only own it while you continue to pay for the service. If you just stop paying for the service, then you don't have access to that game.
So this is my one thing. So NVIDIA has something called GeForce Now, which is also a game streaming service. But one of the features they allow you to do is if you own it on Steam, you can play it on GeForce Now. You're not paying anything additional. So if they allow a level of game portability where you buy it once and you can play it in multiple services or whatever without having to repay, granted, you would still pay the subscription. But if you don't have to pay the same $60 for the same title, I think it would go a long way.
They didn't announce that.
I know.
Okay.
I know. But that's
I just want to make that clear. Somebody got confused out there. Roger is saying that would be cool if they did that. That is not what they announced.
Hint. It would be very cool if they did that. Because there is going to be a point where everyone is like, hey, we all have the latest Tomb Raider. We have the latest Devil May Cry, whatever. Who do you want to buy it from? And then some guys say, well, I don't like the service anymore. I want to move over to that. But now I got to rebuy my entire catalog of games.
Yeah, but again, that's not what they're doing. So for you can wish and dream for the horses of Google Stadia to come someday to that. Is there anything about what they announced today that appeals to you?
So the biggest appeal is kind of the ubiquity, right? So if I travel between here and my parents' place, they have like 80 megabit down internet where they're at. I can just bring the controller and I can play whatever, and I can pick up the game, right? I don't need to be lugging around 30, 40 pounds of equipment every time I want to play. I travel for business. If the hotel I'm at offers some really awesome, connectivity, I can play there and, kill 30 minutes instead of having, again, to bring something that is 40 pounds worth of luggage.
Yeah, no, that makes sense, and I think some people will like that aspect of this. And you will get more than just Destiny 2 for free. So there will be some free games popping into your account from time to time. Sounds like people expect it to be about one a month, but we'll see if they commit to that. And Nick from Montana already wrote in and said one of the most appealing and innovative features of Google Stadia is the controller, which directly connects to Google servers, bypassing the local machine and decreasing latency. It's one reason why you might want to get that Google controller instead of using your Xbox controller. But Nick says, I know there are a lot of us who grew up on PC games and prefer to play with a keyboard and mouse. Do you think there is a market for a Stadia keyboard and mouse that also directly connects to Google servers? This launch seems geared towards the console market, perhaps to outrace the next generation consoles. But what about the PC lovers like Nick?
I think that if we are all rooting for Stadia, then we are rooting for the world in which they do similar hardware, because the other question is this, and this is another Google thing. When things don't take off the way that Google likes, very often these programs or these projects go away. And that is something that cannot be discounted with Stadia now. I think that Google needs to earn the fact that this is going to be a success, and if it has a rocky start, that it's gonna continue to get the love and affection.
I know everybody loves to hate on Google for that because Google Trips went away this week. Nobody was using Google Trips. If people use this, Gmail's not in danger of going away. Google Drive is not in danger.
I'm still annoyed about it.
But you're like the only one.
I'm just saying, I'm furious. Every day I go into my Gmail, I'm incensed and I'm enraged. Tom, you're right. It is possibly overblown. However, you cannot deny that it is something that goes in the back of your mind when you're trying to make a $100 plus purchase.
No, you're right. You're absolutely right.
A lot of gaming news and lots of other news that is submitted to our subreddit every day, and we love you all for it. You can submit stories and vote on others at dailytechnewsshow.reddit.com. You can join the conversation too in our Facebook group, facebook.com/groups/dailytechnewsshow. Chris Christensen, the amateur traveler, is back with a tip for folks outside the U.S. who might want to ride hail and ride share longer distances.
This is Chris Christensen from Amateur Traveler with another Tech in Travel Minute. I know that my tips are sometimes very US-centric, but this is one that is going to be more Europe-centric, and that is BlaBlaCar.com. And BlaBlaCar helps you do ride sharing, but not ride sharing down the block or 2 miles away, but to another city. And so you can do a ride, for instance, from, say, King's Cross Station in London to Liverpool and do a search and find somebody who is going from one to the other and how much they would charge you and when they're going. You can say when you want to go and where you want to go. As you can imagine, there may be someone who is doing that route, but they're starting from 12 kilometers away from you, or they're not quite going all the way to Liverpool. So you may need some flexibility in terms of how you get to those different endpoints, but it can save you a lot of money. So check out BlaBlaCar.com. And this is Chris Christensen from Amateur Traveler.
Thank you, Chris. Justin, did you take any blah cars when you were in Italy?
We did not. Rome had a fairly efficient taxi culture where there were just taxi stands, well-known taxi stands where you could pick them up anywhere. And then in Sicily, we rented a car.
Yeah. Check it out. Also, check out the mailbag.
Let's do it. This one comes from Josiah, who says, wanted to share my perspective on the newly announced Apple login. I work for an education service agency. A few years ago, we started making web and mobile apps. We've been using Google login for all of our apps because it's relatively simple, secure, and cheap. Free for our apps to handle login for many school districts, those are our customers, and have adopted G Suite for education. We can easily limit login to the email domain of paying customers. We use a site license model rather than a per user model. So you can have your school email that ends with @myschool.org. We don't sell any personal data from our servers, from our users rather. We're a nonprofit mission-focused organization. If we're required to add Apple login to our apps, well, I'll take a wait and see approach, but my first reaction is to suspect it will not be optimal. I'm not sure we'll be able to verify users by domain if they use Apple login, especially if they use the hide my email feature. On top of that, their Apple login would likely be for their personal account and not their work account. And if that's the case, we'll either need to do a lot of extra work to include something that none of our customers were really asking for, or slap the Apple login button there, but not hook it up on the back end and tell our customers to ignore it. The Apple login is a cool idea for consumer apps, but doesn't make sense for apps that require work and enterprise login. I'm interested to see where this lands.
Yeah, I couldn't tell for sure if Josiah's app is an enterprise managed service, which Apple offers, in which case I'm almost certain they won't force Apple ID on enterprise users. Every time they do one of these things like no parental controls, except for enterprise users, like they always let the enterprise users do whatever they want, because the whole point of enterprise management of devices like that is to have your own policies. So I'm going to guess that won't happen. If you're not on the enterprise though, which some companies do have apps for their employees that aren't in an actual official Apple enterprise, then you might run into problems with that, which I'm curious how many other folks out there are in the same position as Josiah regarding that.
Yeah, keep us posted, Josiah, and everybody else who might be in the same boat on how this all unfolds. Thanks to Justin Robert Young. We missed you, man. It's been a sad few weeks without your smiling face. What have you been up to since we last saw you?
Well, a whole lot of nothing. A whole lot of drinking too much before 3 p.m. But other than that, now that I'm back on the grind, I am very happy to have retaken the reins of my political podcast, Politics, PX3 for short, from the very capable hands of one Tom Merritt. So thank you to all the DTNS listeners that came out and supported Tom when he was talking politics over there on the PX3 show. I tried to do my best to honor some of his commitment to international coverage. All right. Well, whether or not I did it right is a different story. But we are back to our regularly scheduled programming there at politics.com. Go ahead and look it up.
No, I heard your international story today, and all kidding aside, I was very proud that I might have the slightest legacy on politics.
I've actually gotten people that are clamoring for a more regular appearance by Tom on the PX3 in the PX3 world, so we'll have to discuss that. But also, go check out the feed now. We have a whole big interview about why no presidents have facial hair anymore.
Oh, fantastic. I can't wait to hear that interview.
It'll ever come back.
And thank you again for letting me play in your sandbox there. That was so much fun. I hope people enjoyed it. I certainly did. And if you would like to hang out in person with me and Sarah and Roger, even Rich Straffolino and intern Amos are going to be at the Farmers Market in Los Angeles on June 12th, next Wednesday, 4 to 6 p.m. Pacific. Be there or don't, because you can't. We understand it's middle of the day, but hey, it's an actual DTNS LA meetup, 4 to 6 p.m. Wednesday, June 12th at the Farmers Market right by the Grove, 6333 West 3rd Street, Los Angeles, California. If you'd like to find out about these sorts of things earlier, patreon.com/DTNS.
Our email address is feedback@dailytechnewsshow.com. If you'd like to join us live, we are live Monday through Friday at 4:30 p.m. Eastern, 2030 UTC. You can find out more at dailytechnewsshow.com/live.
Back tomorrow with Chris Ashley and Len Peralta. Talk to you then.
This podcast is part of the Frog Pants Studios Network. For more information about this and other shows, visit frogpants.com. Audio program so good, it's like you're there.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.
Excellent show.
Mhm.
Now, we send you to dtns.showbot.tv to pick a title for today's show. Should I Stadia or should I go? The FCC will have it shaken and stirred. I love the smell of French toast. Uber helicopter, the perfect parenting tool. George Lucas's beautiful dream.
I don't know how many people. I mean, this is obviously a very nerdy crowd.
Stadia, the next inbox.
This was the idea of digitally being able to change lines and change, like using CGI to change the mouths of his actors was one of the things that George Lucas was the most excited about when filming the prequels.
Get to the Uber copter. Yeah. So I kind of think if you Stadia, I'll never stop. Is another one. Should I Stadia or should I go? I like that.
I think
Love
that's,
it.
Yeah.
It's perfect. Da-na-na-na-na-na-na.
Should I Stadia? Should I go now? Should I Stadia or should I go?
Are you Googling to see what it tells you?
No, I'm typing it into
the way it was almost like you were asking something. Should
Answer
I
me this.
Stadia?
I'm actually Googling that now. I wonder.
Good Day Internet. The only suggestion we have for Good Day Internet is the limoncello incident.
I mean, that's pretty funny.
It's pretty good. Yeah. I think it's the only one we need. Yeah, I tried the copy feature at the top of the show about page and it didn't work for me just now, but I don't think I clicked it right.
Yeah, it's kind of like a 3-step process.
No, I had it on and then I clicked copy, but the pop-up didn't come up that time. And so I think I thought I'd clicked it, but I really hadn't. User error. I assume it was PEBCAC for sure. Man,
can I give you guys an Italy food hot take?
Oh yeah, please do.
America's got better shrimp.
America has better
shrimp.
The assertion here from Justin Robert Young is shrimp. The United States greater than Italy. Discuss.
I think we just have plumper shrimp.
Well,
like we have,
some folks like a small shrimp.
Some folks do. Some folks do. And if that's your bag, man, it's how you got you covered.
Is this a shrimp versus prawns issue of some sort?
Well, no, because when
Prawns
you think of like
are what we call shrimp, often prawns.
well,
I
okay,
don't know the difference of shrimp versus prawn. I
covered this while you were gone. Actually, funnily
shrimp usually are shrimpier. Actually,
shrimp
they're just smaller,
have shorter legs, and have claws on only 2 pairs.
What's the marinara shrimp appetizer that people love? Can't think of the name of it right now.
Shrimp cocktail.
Yeah, like a shrimp cocktail, like that. Yeah. Like those are pretty big shrimp.
Those are some fat shrimp.
Yeah,
those are like finger-sized shrimp.
Yeah, I don't think those are, or they'd say prawn cocktail because I think that's actually the cooler thing. Right?
Zoe thinks that British people call prawns what U.S. people call shrimp.
I think functionally.
Well, what do they call prawns?
Yeah, I think functionally they do the same thing. Like, yes, there is a difference and they are called different things, but I don't think that like a prawn is larger or a shrimp is larger.
No, prawns are larger than shrimp. That is
because you don't get little teeny prawns, but you do get little teeny shrimp sometimes.
Yeah.
Well, we're seeing
whether there can be a shrimp.
Well, it's typically at least in my experience in the back of the restaurant kitchen, when you get shrimp, they're typically bay shrimp. And those are the little tiny ones that you put in like a shrimp Louis or you give out with free things. Like the one that Sizzler gives out, like the never ending shrimp, whatever they do.
Yeah.
That's generally shrimp because prawns are larger, but they're also more expensive.
Never ending shrimp does not sound good. I want it to end.
Actually, I've always wondered.
Shrimp are
just a
smaller
little
than
bit.
prawns.
Yeah.
But it also depends on where you source it because a lot of the frozen prawn / shrimp that you see in the grocers aisle come from farms in Asia.
Also, shrimp are marine creatures, while prawns live strictly in fresh water.
Okay. So in the
That
UK,
makes it sweeter.
Australia, New Zealand, and Ireland, prawn is the general term used to describe both prawns and shrimp. In North America, the term shrimp is used much more commonly, while the word prawn is often used to describe larger species or those fished from fresh water.
Interesting.
And in some cases, some places that sell lobster tail, that's actually just a very large prawn.
Right. And in some cases, everything you get on the seafood menu is skate.
Well, isn't that the whole thing with fish and chips? They took the inexpensive fish and they pounded it and they fried it.
Well, so here's my larger point. I have always my prawn point. I've loved shrimp pasta. Shrimp pasta is one of my favorite things. I have an old family recipe that eventually I guess will come out in the Daily Tech News Show cookbook
someday.
But the part of the reason why I love it so much is because if you have a fatter prawn or shrimp, whatever you want to call these things, it soaks up so much of the sauce, and you kind of need a meatier shrimp to kind of get some of that texture that I like so much in it, and I did not have so much of it, and that might also just be my bias of growing up in Florida, where you're getting a lot of shrimp,
jumbo shrimp.
Well, a lot of those shrimp prawns are raised locally, right? Aren't they? Like because you're around the Gulf. You can
So I mean, maybe I just have an unrealistic shrimp standard.
Maybe you were in prawn nirvana and didn't realize it until you moved and had visited a different country.
That's true.
Unrealistic shrimp standard is my Dead Milk Hotel cover band.
Dead Milkman?
No, Dead Milk Hotel.
Was that Neutral Milk Hotel?
Neutral Milk. Okay.
Dead Milk Hotel is my Neutral Milk Hotel cover
band. but done in the Dead Milkman style. Or the Dead Kennedys.
I wasn't trying to call Neutral Milk Hotel dead. I don't know why I said dead.
The Dead Milkman.
Yeah,
right?
maybe.
But man, what are my other? I mean, I don't know how anybody gets paid for food that you buy in Italy. Italy is like the concept of paying for your meal was something that I constantly felt like I was going out of my way.
Wait, what do you mean? Like,
so it's a very leisurely pace.
Yes.
Right. You roll in and you just like, I don't think that we had a single meal in which Ashley did not say to me, do we order from the front? Like, and I'm like, no, there's a guy. We just got to hold on loosely. We just got to wait it out. It's fine. We ain't going nowhere. We're on vacation. And so eventually he'd come over and God forbid it was a little busy. It's going to be a bit. And then, you got to get your whole order in immediately because God knows when you're going to see the guy again. And then at the end, it's like, I don't know if a single time a dude came over and was like, oh, here's your check. Maybe it's the super touristy places.
No, France is the same way. It's like you have to like finally get angry and be like, we have to leave. Where's our bill?
I think maybe at the airport at the Sky Lounge or the Sky Bar at the airport where they were like literally just trying to turn over tables as fast as possible. Did we get our check brought to us? But otherwise,
you have to ask for it. And even when you ask for it, they're not sure you mean it. Is what my experience was in Italy.
100%. And also, I don't think they'd be upset if you just walked out. Like, I think that they would just be like, oh,
whatever.
Cost of doing business.
I told this story. I told this story on whatever podcast that I've done over the past week, but I think you guys would very much enjoy it, having traveled to Europe. So first night in Rome, we're finding a nice little restaurant on Yelp and eat it up. We're having a great time. Then we're trying to stay up because we're doing our best to like not get screwed by the jet lag. And so we're like, oh, let's go get a couple more drinks at this wine bar. So we find this wine bar. We're outside. It's a very Roman cafe. We're drinking. The lady's very nice. But between the jet lag and the booze, and I am doing as the Romans do and talking with my hands with a wine glass in my hand, I wind up breaking this wine glass on the floor. So the lady comes over and she throws. She's like, "Oh no! Don't worry! Throws a towel over the shattered glass.
Mm-hmm.
But no one cleans it up.
That's the end of the story.
That's it. Oh my God! Really? It just stayed there. Like,
Yeah.
taken care of. Fixed.
So I was like, initially she throws it over there, and I'm like, oh, is this like a cool like I never would have
Trick, like a life hack.
how to do that? Yeah, a little life hack. Like oh, this is actually kind of smart. I guess if you're not worried about your
Kids
towel
touching it.
I mean, like, because I would kind of feel weird about washing that towel when it's like literally just had glass shards all over it. But like, no, the rest of the time that we were there drinking, she literally just walked over. Her boyfriend rode up on a Vespa, and they just made out on his Vespa the rest of the time. And I'm like, you want to know what? I can't imagine anything more Italian than what is happening right
La Vita Bella.
She was very nice. She had great wine recommendations. She was a horrifyingly terrible server, and she spent the rest of the time making out with her boyfriend on the Vespa.
That's the spice of life.
That's amore.
It was great. It was an amazing.
I mean, you wouldn't want it every day, but you know.
No, I drank a liter of beer in the Vatican too.
Do they have their own branded beer?
Yeah, what was that like? I've had beer in the Vatican myself, but never. I never had connections when I was.
No, we stayed in Vatican City, which apparently is something very rare because they don't have a hotel. So we big shout out to Padre SJ. He hooked it up, and we stayed there at the Jesuit order.
That's pretty cool.
No, it was definitely
I
rad.
assume it was like a stone cell with a wooden board.
You know, it was
A
nicer
little
than
slop through.
it was nicer than I
woke in at daybreak for Vespers.
I will say this, having lived on the road for a while, like I was expecting about a Red Roof Inn, like an older Red Roof Inn, and it was like a Red Roof Inn plus. It was not bad.
Like a Green Roof Inn.
Yeah.
Hey, as long as you're comfortable.
And you want to know what we were? We sidled up. We got our VPN working. Watched the final episode of Game of Thrones.
Nice.
And, that was that. No, but then so there's a restaurant that was right around the corner from our hotel in in Vatican City, and I went down there for lunch. Got a little pasta, and I'm like, "Oh, give me a Peroni." He's like, "Okay, small, medium, or large?" And I'm like, "Come on, man, I'm an American." I'm like, I'm gonna do a large. He's like, that's a liter. And I'm like, I don't know what the hell you just said, sir. Like,
Yeah, the metric system.
Large.
Nobody knows.
Yeah, if you learned it, you would have known. But whatever.
I know, and I didn't. And he brought me a comically large mug.
Now listen, you guys say metric system, but we have 2-liter bottles.
Yeah,
so,
and we also have 1-liter bottles.
Well, but 2-liter bottles are fairly common here.
I know what a
1-liter
2-liter bottle is of like soda.
Divided in half, right?
Right. But still, if someone's like a liter, do you want the big one? I'd be like, yeah.
But
because then I don't have to get it another.
Because I'm sure that at some point I've drank a liter of soda at a movie theater or something, right?
Oh, sure. Yeah, those things are huge, right?
Yeah. So I guess in my head I was just like, it really is just the difference in like ordering it. But also it's like I guess like if you go to a chain bar or something, like a Buffalo Wild Wings or something like that, I'm sure that they got the like super huge like double
Oh yeah.
price or
Oh,
whatever, right? Like, but I don't
I
know.
always see it. It's always in airports, like at an airport.
But they call
chili.
it like crazy grande
Yeah.
rather
Yeah.
than 1 liter.
Mhm.
I'm almost positive the liter was more. It was so much beer, and especially after I just ate a gigantic bowl of pasta to then fill my stomach with like
Right. It's
I was
basically a second meal.
uncomfortably full, but I couldn't. I couldn't.
Rabbit Magic says a liter is 33 ounces, which would be more than 2 imperial pints.
Good for you, Justin.
It was-
Show 'em.
Yeah.
It was it was a fun time.
No, this sounds like the sort of trip where you were eating well. You were having bevs when you felt like it.
Yeah.
Some people would say, and I came back 20 pounds heavier. Did you feel
Yeah.
like you were walking around and doing enough stuff that it was all good?
Oh, I definitely packed on a few, but it wasn't.
Yeah.
It wasn't like I didn't come back super plump.
You didn't come back with your Italy 20.
No, I didn't. I didn't pack on in Italy 20. It is insane though.
The Roma 15.
It is wild how much
14.
the average Sicilian eats, and yet like everybody I met was like skinny.
That was Japan. I remember being there and just seeing people shovel food at all hours of the day, and they're like, "You guys are super scrawny. I don't get it."
Because they walk everywhere and they don't eat any other times.
Yeah, I guess that's the thing is the biggest difference with Italy that I noticed was there ain't no breakfast. Like breakfast there is like
A
Coffee.
cornetto and coffee. That's it.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
it.
Kind of like
It's quick, and then lunch bigger, dinner biggest, and that's like kind of culturally the difference. Here is like we're like, oh no, breakfast, most important meal of the day. Go
right,
ahead,
right.
get 2 eggs, bacon, sausage.
Yeah.
I mean, your goal is like, the farmer's breakfast. Get as close as that as you can, right? Yeah, yeah.
Stoic Twirl says it's the portion sizes. Absolutely not. The portion sizes that these folks ate in pasta are insane. Like it would be against the FDA. The FDA would melt for the amount of pasta that these guys ate. Like it was wild.
Yeah, that's what I want from my life. I want more pasta, more bread, more pasta. I mean, no one's stopping me, but
go for it.
it's in my brain of like, well, make sure that you limit that stuff, gluten and starch. But that's actually what I want every day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've been
Move to Palermo, I suppose.
I've been just cutting out anything in between meals. That helps quite a bit.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm not particularly weight conscious, but it's definitely it was just a different way of living.
I'm dying to go to Sicily. I've been quite a few places in Italy proper, but I've never been to Sicily.
Gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. It was the highlight of our trip. Syracuse was amazing. There's so many just kind of beautiful old towns, and what's sort of amazing about it is that nothing's really far. I would recommend getting a car because there's so much stuff there, and also there's so much varied history because the island's been conquered so many times by so many people, and everybody left their own little civilization. So between the Greeks and the Carthaginians and the Romans and the Moors, we found a church in Syracuse that was a Hellenic temple, a mosque, and a Catholic. It is now a Catholic church. So it was the original KFC, Pizza Hut, and Taco Bell.
So wait, does it service all three, or is it just changed?
No. Now it is just a Catholic church. Although we did see one place in Rome that I was very excited to go see because I had done research about this stuff in college. But in Rome, and it's stuff that you kind of even see the hallmarks of today. They basically had to convert a pagan society to a Christian society, and you see a lot of it in Roman Catholic lore, specifically the idea that there's a reverence for like Santa Maria, like Mother Mary, San Giuseppe, Joseph, that is very much in line with like they are gods alongside this kind of structure. So the place that we saw in Rome in the basement was a Mithraic temple, and there's a couple of them throughout Rome and Italy in general. But Mithras was an Iranian god that was very much worshipped by the soldiers of Rome, and there's this habit throughout Italy, and I'm sure in many other places, where like the holy place stays holy. It's whoever's in there. They might change the name on the door, but for whatever reason, that's the place that's holy. And be it for Islam, be it for Catholicism, be it for a mystery religion, this is the holy place.
It's kind of like the Hagia Sophia. Like, isn't that the one that changed? That went from, that was originally built as a cathedral and then became a mosque, and over time.
Yeah, there's a lot of examples of that sort of thing, for sure.
Yeah.
Hagia Sophia is probably one of the most famous, though. Yeah.
Yeah. Unless, although I don't know, I'm sure people have seen this enough because they've shown it everywhere. But on my Instagram, you can go look. This is the most, aside from the lady who threw a towel over a shattered glass and then made out with her boyfriend for the next hour. The most Italian thing that I saw is between Ashley and I, we have family out in Sicily, and so we showed up, had a nice little meal, and then just as if it were anything, the host Luigi goes and takes a big old bowl of spaghetti that we had all been eating from, and then just dumps it in his dog's dish. The dog just ate the rest of the spaghetti.
Yeah, good life for that dog.
Yeah, really.
It was amazing.
My dog would be pretty thrilled.
My dogs are now giving me looks that they want to move to Italy.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, it was Argo the dog. Argo the dog is an outside dog, and Argo, whenever he'd hear the door rattling, would always come over to the door, try to poke his little nose in there. And so the line that kind of became famous with Ashley and I was just, "No, Argo, no, Argo, no."
Argo, F yourself.
Yeah.
Did you win an Emmy, Argo? Oh, different Argo.
All right. Well, Justin, it's very, very good to have you back, man. We missed you a lot.
Very good to be back, friend.
Yes. Life has returned to normal.
Thank goodness.
Bizarro for a few weeks.
And thanks to everybody listening. Thanks to everybody watching. Thanks to everybody supporting us in all the various ways you can do that. And thanks to everybody for letting us have a good day.
Good day, Internet.
Good day, Internet.
Good day.
And a pleasant tomorrow.
Stop the YouTube stream.
Oh, I gave him the full thing. Yes. Goodbye, YouTube.
Bye.
My forgetting is your benefit. Don't get used to it.